off screen there on the far northern portions of your screen, far upper portions of your screen, it starts to get a lot more noisy. So while Ryan was talking, I went back and looked, and yeah, we definitely had a brief tornado move just to the north of Midland City. It crossed over Kelly Road, and it looks like it has already lifted there right before or either right as it got to Sylvan Grove. Again, this is going to be a lot more difficult to see since we're so close to the radar side. As Ryan mentioned, this gets a lot more noisy as the radar data moves closer to the radar site. But just looking there at the debris tracker while Ryan was talking, we were able to find that very, very brief tornado that touched down again just to the north of Midland City. It lifted very, very close to Sylvan Grove. It crossed over Kelly Road. It was like a very small, very brief, very weak tornado. Obviously did some damage because we were able to track some of that debris on debris tracker. So we've already had one confirmed tornado over in the eastern portions of Dale County, just to the north of Midland City, just barely to the southwest of Sylvan Grove. Now that area of rotation continues to move farther off toward the east. This is your Dale County and Henry County line right here, this darker shaded line right about where my finger was. That is the Dale County and the Henry County line. Heads up headland. We've already had a tornado on the ground, and we briefly lost power there. It looks like we're trying to switch over into our backup power. That may take a minute or two for that to happen. Now it looks like we got it. Some of the things you have to deal with when you have these severe thunderstorms moving through the region, you will have to deal with power outages. And looking just over to my left at the view from downtown Dothan, rain's coming down pretty heavily, so definitely not surprised that we're starting to see some power outages around the area as these storms move through the region. Good news, at least the, yeah, I've got you. Okay. So our area of rotation has now crossed over into the southwest corner of Henry County. Heads up headland. We've already had one tornado on the ground. This could very easily recycle and produce another tornado, albeit brief, albeit likely fairly weak. You still don't want a tornado of any kind moving through your region, and this will start to move very, very close to headland, probably within about the next 5 to 10 minutes. We'll draw this back. Let's scoot this over just a little bit. That's where we had our radar confirmed tornado as it crossed over Kelly. Is that Kelly Road? Yeah, Kelly Road, just to the north of Midland City, just to the south of Sylvan Grove. You can see where that debris ball moved off toward the north and the east. Looks like they've included that tornado warning in
parts of
Houston
Dothan, actually. I believe they...
Is this it's another one.
It's another one.
All right, so we really need to reset here. All right, so this is something that spun up very quickly. Rotation moving through the central portions of Dothan, the circle right now. If you are anywhere within downtown Dothan, that includes us here at the station. Anybody at the station, just get away from any outside doors, any outside windows, any outside walls. Come down to the lowest floor. Come down to the lobby. Come down to the receptionist area and just kind of chill out there for a few minutes. This is very quickly spun up right here, just perfectly in the middle of the circle in Dothan. And this continues to move farther off toward the east. So now we're dealing with two different tornado warnings. Admittedly, our tornado warning for Henry County not looking quite as intense. Ryan, I want you to keep an eye on that if you can. I know you're juggling several different things here. Kind of our more pressing issue is we now have a tornado warning for Houston County. This includes downtown Dothan. This area of rotation is right in the middle of the circle in downtown Dothan. There is Highway 84. There is Highway 231. Downtown Dothan, where the station and all is, just to the north and the east of that. Again, anybody that is here in the station, I don't know if we can get somebody that can kind of spread that word. If we can get them down into the receptionist area and kind of get them just away from any outside walls, windows, and kind of get them into a lower. Oh, look at that! Hey, go full. Can we go full on that? Let's go full on that. I think we at the very least have some very strong winds moving there. Where is this from?
This is
Southeast
Southeast Health.
That's Southeast Health. Wow. Very, very strong winds at the very least moving through On the south side of the circle, this is at Southeast Health. We would otherwise be seeing Ross Clark Circle, but man, that is some very strong winds. I would not be totally surprised if we don't have a tornado on the ground with this. I'm trying to get things figured out. Ryan, can you zoom that out a little bit or kind of pan that around?
Yeah, absolutely.
To see what we got. I'm still not seeing anything just yet on the debris tracker that would suggest that we have a tornado on the ground. If we do, it's going to be off toward the north of where Southeast Health is. But man, that is some heavy rain, and at the very least, some very, very strong winds. We continue to get some of those alerts on our phones. Still not sure whether or not we have a radar confirmed tornado. I am watching debris tracker on my phone at least. Can we switch back to the boxes? Let's put Max 2 back up on full screen, and then we'll switch. Put the Southeast County, the Southeast. Yeah, there we go. All right, so leave that there. We're going to watch here, south of Highway 84, north of the circle here, in between this area, kind of the southern half of the circle. That may be our debris right there. That may be debris getting picked up by the tornado. We'll have to wait and see whether or not that is actually confirmed. If we can, can we get this switched to Max 2? I believe that's Max 1. Can we get that switched to Max 2 just so we can keep an eye on the debris tracker? I think it may take a couple scans for us to actually confirm it. I would not be surprised if that winds up being a radar confirmed tornado. If we can get this switched back to Max 2, I know you guys are dealing with several things in the back. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, there you go. That's Max 2. This area right here, that is very, very likely a tornado on the ground. So we're now dealing with a tornado. I'm going to call it on the ground. This is very, very close to where that rotation is. Probably within the next couple of scans, we'll likely see this kind of deepen even more. So radar confirmed tornado. I'm just going to go ahead and go radar confirmed tornado on the east side of the circle. Highway 84 about to head over toward Highway 231 on the circle. That's where we very, very likely have a tornado on the ground. Still waiting to get confirmation from elsewhere, but it's going to be kind of this lowering in the debris tracker, this lowering in the correlation coefficient. This is where we have almost certainly, I would just about say, we've had a tornado very, very quickly spin up on the south side of Dothan, move just to the north of Southeast Health, to the south of just straight through downtown Dothan. Now this is moving over into the eastern portions of the circle. Yeah, go ahead and take that full. Man, some strong winds. That will be on the back side of where that tornado moved through. And again, we're assuming, but it seems to be fairly likely that we very briefly had a radar-confirmed tornado move through the southern portions of the circle, just to the south of downtown Dothan. Now you're getting the heavy rain. You're starting to get the gusty winds kind of on the back side of that tornado. I'm continuing to look around elsewhere. Your area of rotation is now starting to move out of the circle, up Highway 52. So heads up Smyrna and then continuing up toward Webb. This area of rotation is moving right down Highway 52. And again, Smyrna over toward Webb. Those are kind of our next locations in line where we're seeing this potential tornado. I believe we may have had a radar confirmed tornado farther back off toward the west. That we will actually have to take some time to actually confirm, but looking at some of those views that we have from Southeast Health just a few minutes ago, it looks fairly certain we had a tornado on the ground on the south side of the circle. Now we're seeing that rotation continue eastward up Highway 52, Smyrna over toward Webb. Within the next 2 to 3 minutes in Smyrna, maybe 5 to 6 minutes over in Webb. That's where we'll have that area of rotation moving through. Checking in very briefly back over in Henry County. We don't want to lose these guys. Not really seeing anything that jumps out at me anywhere in Henry County. Yes, we have the tornado warning in effect. Newville over toward Headland. Tornado warning still in effect, but I'm not seeing anything that really jumps out at me that suggests, at least for the moment, that we have any sort of strong rotation or a tornado on the ground as well. The more kind of dire situation right now is over here in Houston County, now moving to the east of the circle, in between Smyrna and Cowarts, on Roundabout Drive, that's where we're seeing an area of rotation. We have every reason to believe that we had a tornado very, very briefly on the ground on the southern about half of the circle, just to the south of downtown Dothan. Fairly likely that we had a tornado on the ground there. The area of rotation that produced that tornado, if we did actually have one, that moved out of the circle and is now moving through the eastern portions of Houston County to the south of Smyrna, to the north of Cowarts. Roundabout Drive, anybody that lives out around Roundabout Drive, any Highway 52 that runs through Smyrna, anybody that lives out this direction, you got to get in a safe place. We have now already had 2 confirmed tornadoes from 2 different warnings, and we'll continue to track this as it moves off toward the east. Ashford, you're included in the warning. I think this moves just to your north. However, heads up Webb, kind of in between Webb and Ashford, right along Highway 52. If we do get a tornado, that's about where we're going to see it spin up. This is just barely to the north of Cowarts. This will come very, very close to the Enon community and then up toward Barber. I want to continue to watch this for any sort of indication that we have any radar or any debris being lofted into the air. It does not look like that has happened, which is definitely some good news for the moment, but it looks like we've at the very least had 2 different tornadoes on the ground, one of them in Dale County, another one in Houston County. Ryan, I don't think we ever got any sort of confirmation on any of the radar texts or anything like that we actually had a tornado on the ground. It could be that we did not have a tornado on the ground, but at the very least, we had some very, very strong winds that moved through the southern portions of the Circle City there in Dothan.
Yeah, I got to agree with you, Zach. When we took that Southeast Health camera full, we had some very powerful winds coming through, and it almost looked like debris. Now, it was very small. It could have really just been leaves been brought off by trees. You know, they're still growing, so it's easy for them to be carried. But yeah, I gotta say, maybe that dip in the debris tracker could have been confirmed debris. I haven't seen anything in terms of the National Weather Service chat if they have said a radar confirmed tornado. Again, this spun up very fast as we were still tracking the threat for headland. Now that has passed due to that broad rotation kind of dissipating as well. But we're going to keep our eye on this rotation. Now, luckily, the National Weather Service is seeing what we're seeing. The rotation has become broad. Just before we had this warning hit downtown Dothan, I actually saw that this was ramping up. So I was like, okay, I'm going to keep my eyes on it. And there it was. It just proves that it does not take very much time for these to spin up, but we're going to continue watching this. Again, like Zach was saying, really between the areas of Webb and Ashford, as we're continuing to watch that. Barber and Pierce, just kind of go ahead and be in your safe place, because again, it doesn't take time or much time for these to ramp up again. And of course, Zach, I'll let you continue to watch this, as I'm going to be continuing to track little notches in the line, because just like how this ramped up very quickly, there could be other areas that ramp up quickly.
Yeah, Ryan, that's a good example of what we can see with these storms as they continue to move through the area. Let's zoom out. Let's kind of do a reset right quick. We've had a couple of different tornado warnings in effect, a couple of which, one of which we can say for sure did produce a tornado. It was over closer to Midland City. Another one I'm fairly certain could have caused a tornado here on the south side, inside the circle in Dothan. I have not gotten any sort of confirmation that that actually happened, but based on some evidence that we were looking at, it's definitely possible that we saw a tornado move through some portion of the eastern and southeastern portions of the circle in Dothan. And again, that happened quickly. I mean, we all got the alerts on our phone, all of our phones making noises here in the studio as that moved through the region. We briefly lost power here at the station. So several indications that we at the very least had damaging straight line winds. And I'm convinced we may have had a tornado on the ground there somewhere across the eastern or southeastern portions of the circle there in downtown Dothan. Now kind of the threat area that we're watching has moved over into the east central portions of Houston County. You can see where our long line of greens, long line of reds are kind of lined up with each other. Good news is not seeing anything where we're seeing a lot of those colors coming together and forming rotation, which is definitely some good news. It looks like we're starting to kind of fade away with that tornado threat. By the way, that tornado warning farther off toward the north for Dale and Henry County, that is now gone. Anybody in Dothan, by the way, you're still included within the tornado warning polygon, at least for right now. The threat is now well off toward your east. So anybody in Dothan, your tornado threat is over. You're clear, you're in the good. Rain will start to wind down over probably the next hour or so. That's something I'll have to look more into once we wrap up here. But now the area that we're watching the closest, now starting to move over into the northeastern portions of Houston County. Not really seeing anything that sticks out to me. It says we have a lot of rotation moving through, but anywhere from Pleasant Plains to Webb down into Ashford, if we don't have a tornado being produced anywhere, we definitely have some very, very strong winds, and we can get a very, very quick look at what some of those winds look like. And again, this is fairly close to the radar site. Most of these between 20 and 30 miles per hour. So not even really all that much in the way of gusty winds. So hopefully an indication that things are starting to wind down after things ramped up in with a quickness as those storms moved through Dothan. Going to zoom out right quick. This should be the only tornado warning that we're watching. It is. This is for the northeast corner of Houston County. This clips the very far southeast corner of Henry County, and it looks like that jumps over the Georgia state line and over into Early County as well. So there's your Houston County and Henry County line. Right here along the Chattahoochee River, that is your Alabama and your Georgia state line. So this is to the north of Ashford. If we have any rotation, it's to the north of Ashford, right along Highway 52, about to move into Columbia. If you're in Columbia, you need to be in that safe place. This area of the line has a history of, at the very least, potentially producing a tornado. At the very least, we saw some very, very strong gusty winds as that moved through. Again, Dothan, you're still included within the tornado warning polygon. You're likely still hearing sirens going off. However, the area of potential rotation has now moved well off toward your east. Your tornado threat has come to an end in Dothan. Heavy rain, gusty winds, some lightning, some thunder may continue to be possible as this rain starts to wind down. Webb, you're in the clear. Ashford, you're in the clear. Anybody along Highway 52 in between Webb and Columbia, if we do have a tornado on the ground, and again, no indications that we are seeing that. If it is happening, it's right over Pierce or somewhere right around that general vicinity of Pierce along Highway 52. This will continue to carry right along Highway 52 over closer to Columbia. Ryan, are you seeing anything that from the Weather Service as to what they may wind up doing with this over the next several minutes? Because we're once again getting decently close to the time where this would be allowed to expire in about 10 minutes. Is there anything from the Weather Service that's saying that what are the radar trends looking like? Yeah,
the radar trends, I believe they're going to let this expire and actually, okay, yeah, it's still in effect, but I do believe that they're going to let this expire just because that area of rotation where it was really confined a couple scans ago as it went through Dothan, and this is what it looked like at 12:33, that's where we kind of knew it was ramping up here, but now you can see that hook that was going through Cowarts there now continuing to kind of become more straight line again. So I do believe, and what I'm seeing through the chat here, they're likely going to let this expire again. I'm not seeing any indications of them continuing this, but I'm going to continue to also watch out for, again, little notches and possibly like little hooks. Sometimes that's a good tool in the base reflectivity for storms that are trying to rotate as well. And I was actually taking a look again at the Southeast Health Skycam, just trying to kind of go around since the rain has slackened. We were kind of blinded by the rain to see if there was damage. And from what I could tell, just doing a panorama around the health center right there, I couldn't see anything that really defined that I could see damage out of this storm. But again, it's hard when you're just looking at one camera. So we're going to be continuing to watch reports if that was a radar confirmed tornado. But now we're kind of seeing that that has really, excuse me, disorganized. So I believe they're going to let this expire. But Zach, like I said, we're going to continue watching this. And from what we were saying, too, for areas of Ashford, Webb, and I'm going to zoom in here just to see Smyrna, Barber. I believe you were now... you're still within the tornado warning. We're going to continue watching this, but you're kind of out of that threat for a tornado. That has moved to the east of you, and so you're good to go along with downtown Dothan. But, we still got a little bit to go. We're going to continue watching for notches and see if any more spin-ups or big gusty winds can make their way out of these storms, Zach.
Yeah, another thing that you mentioned, just where that camera is, it's likely farther toward the south of if we did have a tornado on the ground. Where that camera is, I think it was to the south of where that tornado was, and I think that camera was pointed off toward the south. So we likely did not see the tornadoes. We didn't see the tornado itself if it was actually on the ground. With all the rain that was coming down, all the blowing rain that made its way across the region. But I think to begin with, that camera was pointed off toward the south, away from where that area that we're concerned about moved through. So, things ramped up really, really quickly over in the far southern portions of Dothan. Inside the circle, on the southern half of the circle, we're continuing to watch the storms that, or at least the storm that developed that area of, at the very least, damaging straight line winds. And we're going to have to wait a little bit to confirm whether or not we actually had a tornado on the ground. That is a look at reflectivity. We're just looking at rain here. We'll switch this over to velocity. Maybe just a little bit of an area of rotation. It's not very much. There's nothing that sticks out to me right now that came anywhere close to what stuck out at us when this is moving through downtown Dothan. I can still hear the tornado sirens going off outside. If you're in Dothan, if you're in Webb, if you're in Ashford, anybody that's farther back off toward the west, Cowards, any of those places farther back off toward the west of where we're showing, your tornado threat has passed. It's well off toward the east. Kind of the area that I'm watching the closest right now is this very, very small couplet just to the south of Highway 52, southwest of Columbia. If we do have a tornado on the ground, which I don't think we do, but if there was, it would pretty much be right here, just barely to the south of Highway 52, about to move very, very close to Highway 95, just to the south of Columbia. Then this crosses over the Chattahoochee River, the Georgia state line, and moves over into Early County. Again, that rotation not quite as intense, not quite as organized as what we saw maybe about 15 to 20 minutes ago, but still dealing with some rotation. And on a day like this, it just does not take very much rotation to get some of that to spin up. We're continuing to watch elsewhere around the region as this line of storms continues to move out of the area. That line very, very quickly now, moving out of Henry in Houston County, about to move into Clay and Early County. Over in southwest Georgia, again, that little ball right here, this little kink in the line, this little ball right here in the line, that's the place where we're going to continue to watch for the potential for another spin-up tornado. We've already seen a couple of them. Ryan, what you got?
Yeah, Zach. So actually, we're getting an update from our newsroom. This is reported by Ken Curtis. I'm just going to read from the article here. A suspected tornado hit Dothan Preparatory Academy. Oh, wow. Paramedics responded to a call from a roof that fell on students. There's no immediate word of the seriousness of these injuries, and other damage was actually reported in South Foster Street and South St. Andrews areas of Dothan. So if that is the case, then that tornado that we were watching out for, or that rotation we were watching out for, was able to produce some damage. And I mean, through the Skycam, we saw winds that were really powerful. So right now, those first responders are on the scene. Of course, we'll continue to get you updates. And I know everyone is really concerned with students at school today. And so it's best while we're watching these areas to have safe places in mind and on standby. And really quick, I just wanted to take a second. I know everyone, we were tracking that radar confirmed tornado through parts of Headland into Henry and Dale County. Those areas, we haven't seen any damage reports or anything regarding the schools. Information. I'm going to be watching out for that, but nothing has come out of there. I don't believe I've really seen storm reports come through the National Weather Service chats as well. But I'll also be watching out for that too. And again, turning my attention to storm relative velocity here, just another thing, while Zach has been kind of watching out for the developments with the warning that is still encompassing Houston County, I'm watching out for this notch right here just north of Grangeburg, and I'm going to continue watching that. It hasn't really revved up much, but I'm seeing some of those pixels brighten, and sometimes that can allow for, you know, some tightening of that rotation. So again, we're going to be, and as we saw, that pixel kind of went away, so I'm going to continue watching these notches and continue watching out for reports that we could see of other damage in other areas.
Yeah, watch NWS chat closely for that rotation there in the southern portions of Houston County. Things are continuing to look better right along now the Alabama and the Georgia state line. This is the far northeast corner of Houston County, about to move into the east central portions of Early County, again, right along the Alabama and the Georgia state line to the south, just barely to the south of Columbia. That's where we're still tracking a little bit of rotation. This has continued to weaken over about the last 10 minutes or so. This warning is about another 4 or 5 minutes maybe from expiring, 3 minutes away from expiring. My guess would be they allow this to expire. I'm not seeing anything that would suggest this needs to be extended over into Early County. However, we'll continue to watch that. In addition to that, there in the northeastern portions of Houston County, we are also watching the south central portions of Houston County as well. Just to the north of Grangeburg, there's just a little bit of a kink, just a little bit of a notch there, right along the leading edge of that line of storms. Nothing too terribly alarming, nothing too terribly significant right now, but this has the very beginnings of kind of that look that you see on reflectivity that would suggest that we could see something spin up. Again, not saying that anything is going to happen. There's not a tornado warning in effect for the southern portions of Houston County. That's just going to be one of the areas that we continue to watch as this line of storms moves off toward the east. And again, we still have just a little bit of rotation just to the south of Columbia, about to cross over the Georgia state line and move over into Early County. This is approaching the very eastern edge of our tornado warning polygon as well, so we'll have to see whether or not the Weather Service in Tallahassee extends that tornado warning farther over into Early County. Again, you're still in the tornado warning polygon if you're in Dothan, if you're in Webb, if you're in Ashford, but understand that area of rotation is now moving over into Georgia. So sirens may still be going off, and again, you may still be within the tornado warning polygon, but any sort of potential for a tornado is now crossing over the Alabama and Georgia state line, crossing over the Chattahoochee River, and now moving into southwest Georgia. This will now carry over farther off toward the east over into Early County. This should stay to the south of Blakely, so definitely some good news there. And again, it looks like things starting to trend a little bit weaker. We'll just have to see if the Weather Service in Tallahassee extends that tornado warning farther off toward the east and into Early County. We'll continue to keep an eye on that. We'll also continue to keep an eye on this area of rotation in the southern portions of Houston County. This eventually heads over toward Crosby in the far southeastern corner of Houston County. Little bit of a area where we're seeing some of those green inbound winds and those red outbound winds coming together and forming just a little bit of very, very weak, very broad rotation. Still not anything that's incredibly alarming to me, but it's still something that we're going to have to watch over the next several minutes. Still have the tornado warning in effect for much of Houston County, much of the northern half of Houston County, far southeastern Henry County, and now moving over into Early County. I think that warning expires in a minute, probably right here at the top of the hour at 1 o'clock. We'll see if the National Weather Service in Tallahassee extends that tornado warning over into Houston County. If they do not, we'll be able to send this back to regularly scheduled programming. We'll continue to watch everything else along the leading edge of this line for any sort of potential. There goes our tornado warning. We will give this just a couple more minutes. We'll give this until about 103, 105 to see if anything gets extended over either into southwest Georgia or out across the Florida Panhandle. If anything doesn't happen there, probably within about the next 3 to 5 minutes or so, I think we'll be good to send this back to regularly scheduled programming. And we'll continue to monitor radar until we can get this line of storms out of here. Good news is we're not too terribly far away from that moment. There's a look at Doppler radar. If we can just move our live cam out of the way just right quick, and we can go back to it there in a minute. That's the view from Flowers. Looks like things starting to quiet down there in downtown Dothan. You can see our line of thunderstorms just starting to move into some of our far eastern counties. Mariana, things have gotten pretty loud pretty quickly there. A lot of our strongest storms have now moved to the east of Dothan. They've moved to the east of Headland, east of Abbeville. Anybody along and west of that line, your severe weather threat is done. There may still be a few showers. Yeah. Okay. All right, so there's a brief look at radar. We're going to take you live now to WTVY reporter Camille Coney. She is on the south side of Dothan where we saw those storms move through the region. Camille, if you can hear me, give us an update on what we're seeing right now.
Intersection of West Selma Street and South Oak Street. As you can see behind me, Dothan has damage to their gymnasium. They have trees in the front area and heavy law enforcement as well. As you can see, we have law enforcement directing traffic here, and we have law enforcement and
yeah, so you saw some of the scenes there from the south side of Dothan where we had some damage that was produced by storms. We'll have to wait and see whether or not that was a tornado, if that was straight line wind damage. Ultimately, it doesn't matter. We have wind damage that was done on the southern half of Dothan there, inside the circle, and we'll have to get National Weather Service crews out here to survey the damage. They will be the ones that will ultimately figure out whether or not that was tornado damage or whether or not that was straight line wind damage. We always talk about in the lead up to some of these severe weather events, sometimes it doesn't matter if it was a tornado or if it was straight line winds that produced that damage. Straight line winds can still do damage equivalent to EF0 and EF1 tornadoes. Whether or not it was spiraling around a funnel or just going straight line through an area, wind damage is wind damage, and we've had that happen across the southern half inside the circle of Dothan. We also had a very, very brief tornado right around Midland City as well that also produced some damage. So those are things that are going to have to be surveyed, and then ultimately we figure out whether or not a tornado caused that damage or whether or not that was straight line winds. But regardless of what caused it, we've had damage across portions of Dale and now into Houston County, very, very close to Dothan. You saw the damage there in Camille shot. The storms that caused that damage now starting to cross over the Alabama and the Georgia state line, moving over into Early County. I'm still watching this notch here in the line moving through the central portions of Early County. I think this would stay south of Blakely. So anybody just right along the far, I guess by that point you would call it the south central portions and kind of into the east central portions of Early County. But right there where you have that line kind of curving there, just barely inside the Georgia state line, if we're going to get another tornado to spin up, that's about where it's going to be. And this is the same part of the line that produced that damage in the southern portions of Dothan. You saw the scenes there in the view from Southeast Health. Very, very likely, I mean, you saw it produced damage. We still got to figure out what actually caused the damage, but wind damage nonetheless, and that's continuing to move off toward the east, and we're continuing to watch as this line moves over into the southern portions of Early County. I'm also still watching the southern portions of Houston County and now moving into the far northern portions of Jackson County. There's a couple of areas that we're watching. One just to the south of Crosby, another one just to the east of Malone. Again, just a couple of areas, not very significant rotation, but a couple of areas that need to be watched nonetheless. This continues to move eastward and eventually over into Seminole County. Again, one south of Crosby in the far southeast corner of Houston County, another one in the far northeast corner of Jackson County, just to the east of Malone. A couple of areas where there's just a little bit of rotation there on radar. Not anything significant. We'll still have to wait and see whether or not it actually produces a tornado, but as you've seen for about the last hour to hour and a half, these are storms that are more than capable of either A, producing a brief tornado, or B, producing damaging straight line winds. We've likely seen both of those, one in Dale County and another one in Houston County. So that's something I'll continue to watch. Continuing to also keep my eye on things here over in Early County. Not really anything that jumps out at me here on over in Early County, so something we'll continue to keep an eye on. We have gotten Camille Coney back. Let's toss things back out to her. I'm not sure if Camille can hear me or not, but Camille, tell us some of the things that you're seeing out there.
Yes, I'm right here at the intersection of West Selma Street and South Oak Street. As you can see, we had a tornado touchdown in the area and caused some severe damage. Right over here, as you can see, Balleros, auto sales, there's some little tin over there that's blown over. Right here, as you can see, they're going up to West Selma Street. You see law enforcement is directing traffic, and we have a lot of firefighter trucks going through the area. We haven't got no word of injuries in the school or anything like that, so we don't know of anything, but we know law enforcement and officials have been back and forth out of the school. As you can see, the school has a little bit of damage to the roof of the gymnasium. Like I said before, we haven't got any word about what's going on in particular. They do have a little bit of trees down in the front of the Dothan Preparatory Academy. The Dothan Preparatory Academy also has a sign down, and it has a lot of tin in the area. We have a lot of debris on the roads. As you can see, traffic is still flowing, as you can see, up for a little bit, but they're not allowing anybody to go down West Selma Street, as you can see. South Oak Street, my bad. I'm sorry about that.
Thank you, Camille.
We haven't got any word of anyone
good shot there
injured or
of some of the
anything like
damage that we've had on the south side of Dothan. You saw some of the tree damage. You saw some of the roof damage out there around Dothan Preparatory Academy. What's that? So we had some of that damage. Thank you, Ryan. Had some of that damage there on the south side of Dothan, out around Dothan Preparatory Academy. Some roof damage looks like to some of those buildings. A lot of debris in the roads, a lot of tree debris there in the roads. Again, can't quite tell from that whether or not that was actual tornado damage, whether or not that was straight line wind damage, but regardless of what caused it, we have had damage in the southern portions of Dothan. We've also had a radar confirmed tornado that moved through portions of Dale County right around Midland City. So already been a day where we've had damage done across portions of the Wiregrass. Now we're watching the kind of tail end of this, the leading edge of that line of showers and storms, about to move all the way out of Houston County. We're primarily watching kind of this far southern edge of Early County, and also Seminole County in southwest Georgia, and then Jackson County over in Florida. There are no tornado warnings in effect. There's a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings in effect. Gusty winds, may see some of those wind gusts, as high as 40 or 50 miles per hour. And then we're just watching some of these little notches embedded in the line for what could be a spin-up tornado. Good news is not really seeing anything that sticks out at me really anymore from either of these areas. One small area just to the south of Florida Highway 2, moving over closer to Steam Mill. Another one crossing over Alabama Highway 95, and we are talking the far southeast corner of Houston County. Just a couple of areas where we have just some very, very broad rotation. Nothing that jumps out at us. nothing that would suggest that we're right on the edge of seeing a tornado being produced, but nonetheless, we are seeing some pretty gusty winds, at the very least, moving through along the leading edge of the line. Just to cover some other things very, very quickly. Dothan, Headland, Abbeville, Eufaula, Troy, Banks, Brundage, Enterprise, Fort Noble, Ozark, Geneva, Slocum, I can go on and on, Ott, Kinston, Eufaula, Luverne, Brantley, Troy, everybody that's back off toward the west of this line, your severe weather threat's done for the day. We may still see some rain coming down at times throughout the rest of the afternoon. That will start to wind down as we head into the evening. The only places where we're continuing to track still a low-end threat for a few strong storms, early Seminole County in southwest Georgia and the far eastern portions of Jackson County. It is very, very loud, very, very stormy, likely seeing some pretty gusty winds in Mariana. A severe thunderstorm warning is in effect, but we do not have a tornado warning in effect. And I think basically at this point, we're already so close to it as it is. I think we just carry this until the leading edge of this line starts to move over into the far eastern portions of Seminole County and out of our region. Then we can finally wash our hands of this and start to survey damage, because as you just saw there just moments ago from Camille Comey's shot, some damage done out around Dothan Preparatory Academy. We had another tornado over close to Midland City. Fortunately, we have not seen anything spin up since then, but definitely a very wild and damage-producing several minutes there for portions of Dale and Houston County. Again, heavy rain, lots of thunder, lots of lightning in Mariana. That's now starting to move over into Sneads. If it's not raining heavily already in Steam Mill, it will be doing that within about the next 2-3 minutes or so. That's when we'll start to get some of that rain into the region. Donaldsonville, you'll start to see things begin to increase as well over the next several minutes. But at the very least for right now, the only things that we're tracking, gusty winds, maybe a brief spin-up tornado. Outside of that, we're dealing with gusty winds, heavy rain, lots of thunder and lightning, and hopefully we're winding down here probably about the last maybe about 10 to 15 minutes of this. That leading edge of the line about to move out of the southern portions of Early County. Heads up, I just saw this looking down at my phone. In between Blakely and Mayhaw, you can see where this, where we've gotten a part of this line to really surge forward. You kind of see that kind of bow-shaped structure in between Blakely and Mayhaw. We'll likely see an intensification of some of those strong gusty winds right here through the central portions of Early County. This stays to the north of Blakely. This stays to the south of Blakely. This may clip portions of Mayhaw. Granted, that's out of our region, but there may be some areas that are over here close to Mayhaw that may be watching us right now. So that Boeing segment right here in between Blakely and Mayhaw, this will be something to watch for a little bit of an enhancement in some of those strong gusty winds. Outside of that, this is rain and this is gusty winds. The rain's starting to pick up in Blakely right now. The good news is not looking quite as much in the way of a tornado threat with this, as it's just now moved through Columbia and now into southwest Georgia. Blakely, things will start to get pretty loud and pretty rough here within about the next 5 minutes or so. For right now, it looks like it's rain, lots of thunder, lots of lightning, some gusty winds. I think if there's any damaging winds, it'll be just off toward your south, right in the middle of where that Boeing segment is within that line of storms. And then continuing to move southward along the rest of the line. Rain should start to wind down in Gordon fairly quickly. Malone, you should start to see things begin to wind down pretty quickly. Kind of the last few locations that we're still keeping our eye on. Donaldsonville, down into Steam Mill, and then farther along into portions of Jackson County as well, which it looks like even then a lot of those locations are kind of running few and far between. Bellwood, Lovedale, over toward Haines. Those are some of the locations where we could still see the low-end potential for a few strong storms. Chattahoochee, you're also included in that as well. But again, the good news is we're starting to kind of wind this down. As we've been mentioning for the better part of the last hour, we have seen damage in the southern portions of Dothan in Houston County. There was a radar-confirmed tornado right about an hour ago in Dale County over closer to Midland City. So we have had storms that have done damage, and they're continuing to move eastward, now mostly over into southwest Georgia and Jackson County out across the Florida Panhandle, at least out of the areas that we continue to cover. The leading edge of that line has now moved out of the far, far southeast corner of Houston County. This continues to very quickly move off toward the east. We're now starting to wind down now over the central portions or the southern portions of Early County as well. And kind of our last two remaining counties here will be Jackson County in the Florida Panhandle, Seminole County there in the southeast corner of Georgia. Ryan, toss things over to you right quick. What are some of the things that you're keeping your eye on?
Yeah, I've just really been watching out for the speed of this line. Now it's quickly making its way through the last of our areas. So like you said, it's been winding down. I've been kind of watching some of the wind gusts that some areas of Georgia, like Blakely into the rest of Early County, could be seeing right now. So much of our Alabama area, we are pretty much done with the severe weather threat. Again, we're just watching out for those final areas of Jackson County, Seminole County into Early as well. And I'm going to go ahead and stop the radar right here so we can take a look at just some of the base velocity. We're getting farther away from the radar site, but for areas such as parts of like Early County, I wanted to plot the wind speeds here, just kind of get a bit of an estimation. So see some pixels there registering 55 miles per hour, 57, and 51. This is a little bit farther up in the atmosphere, so they're likely seeing more gusts around 40 to 45 miles per hour. And so you're still getting some of those high winds, but in terms of rotation, we just haven't seen much come together since we saw that piece make its way through downtown Dothan and made its way farther to the east. And we're still watching out for reports and anything that we can get of the sort, and especially with emergency responders now responding to Dothan Prep. We're getting reports through the National Weather Service chat, again, a great resource, that some emergency managers with Cottonwood and other areas that are responding to this, they're just asking people to avoid South Oak Street as they respond to it, because, again, it's best to clear traffic so that way they can get there and attend to anyone that may have injuries, like we saw the report come through a few minutes ago. And actually, through the National Weather Service chat, we've gotten a few more storm reports come through for other areas of Alabama. We were tracking that radar-confirmed tornado kind of making its way through parts of Dale County earlier, and one of the ones that came through was close to Sylvan. This is, I believe, Sylvan Grove in Dale County. 911 call center reported trees and power lines down near County Road 67 and County Road 14. There were power lines reported to be down around Highway 123 and County Road 134 in Waterford, Dale County as well. That was another one. And also even a few small trees being brought down in parts of Coffee County near Laurel Breeze Drive. So other areas that we were watching out for, straight line wind gusts and also potentially some rotation throughout this early afternoon has been able to knock some trees down. But I do believe the most significant out of this that we have so far seen reports of is out of the middle of downtown. Again, that could be straight line wind gusts, or that could be where, like Zach has been saying, the National Weather Service comes through, is able to do a report to see if, from what they find, it was a brief tornado that was able to touch down. And of course, we'll keep you updated with any reports that come out of downtown Dothan, if there was any other damage in other areas as well. But switching to storm relative velocity here, again, just watching out for the final pieces of this line. I've been watching like areas here where we were kind of close to, I believe it was Crosby. We were watching areas of Crosby, and so we were kind of like watching for notches like this, and you kind of see that through the base reflectivity here on the radar. You gotta get these little notches here, and it kind of makes a hook in the radar. And typically we find these little hooks because that's indicating that the storm is rotating a little bit as that horizontal, what we call vorticity, is being made into vertical vorticity. So it's making the cloud kind of spin like this, and you can see that sometimes through Doppler radar here, but it's nothing in terms of organized. Again, we've seen throughout this early afternoon that it can become very quick how these are organized, but we are in the final moments where this is starting to head out of our area. Again, I think the main thing that those areas of Georgia are seeing right now is those wind gusts likely between 40 to 45 miles per hour at the surface, and much of our area is now out of the severe weather threat. So I'll actually do a big view right here, and then I'll toss things back over to you, Zach. I'm sure we're kind of seeing the same thing in the final moments. But yeah, all of our Alabama counties out of the the severe storm threat now, just making its way through the final pieces of Jackson County, and maybe a little bit of Seminole County. That main line still has a little bit of time to go. But of course, we'll be continuing to get you the latest information, especially as we can attend to what the authorities are saying about the potential damage in Dothan and elsewhere.
Want to further build upon something that Ryan said. We'll switch things back over to Doppler radar. Also seen some of these questions on Facebook Live. I was able to check some of those questions right quick while Ryan was walking through stuff. Here's a wider view of Doppler radar. Your line of thunderstorms is moving through the far now southeastern portions of Clay County, central portions of Early County. Blakely, you're not too terribly far away from being done with those strong to severe storms. Now moving into Seminole County and just about to exit Jackson County. If you live in we'll mention Clay County, but Clay, Early, Seminole counties in Georgia, Jackson County in Florida, and especially if you live kind of over in the eastern portions of those counties, you're still dealing with a low end but still non-zero threat for some strong to severe storms. Anybody back farther off toward the west, it does not matter if it's Andalusia, Luverne, Brantley, Troy, Banks, Brundage, Jack, Victoria, Opp, Kinston, New Brockton, Elba, Enterprise, Fort Novosel, Ozark, Headland, Midland City, Eufaula, Clio, Clayton, Geneva, Slocum, Hartford, anybody that's, you see where this red line is, the red line of storms that's still moving through the eastern portions of the region. If you live back behind this, anywhere back behind that red line of storms, your severe weather threat's done for the day. We may still see some rain. You can see some of that popping up in a few locations around the region. There may still be some lightning, some thunder in just a few of those locations. Your severe weather threat is over, again, if you live anywhere along and back behind that line of storms. That includes Dothan, that includes Troy, that includes Ozark, that includes Enterprise, that includes Andalusia. Basically all of our Florida Panhandle counties, Crestview, Definiak Springs, over into Chipley, Bonifay, now starting to move into Marietta. Your severe weather threat's done for the day. You may still see a little bit of rain continue for the next couple of hours, but your severe weather threat is done. Still watching for a low-end threat for primarily gusty winds for now, pretty much Early, Seminole, and Jackson County. We'll zoom in on some of these areas and kind of give you a little bit of a deeper dive in what we're seeing in some of these locations. If we're going to see any form of wind damage at this moment, it's going to be within this bowing segment of the line just to the south of Blakely, just to the north of Mayhall. This is over in the far kind of east central portions of Early County. Farther back off toward the west, toward Columbia, the Alabama, the Georgia state line, your severe weather threat is done. Again, the greatest threat for any sort of wind damage at this moment, looking at radar, is going to be right here in the east central portions of Early County. I think this is south of Blakely. Some of this may clip Damascus over in the eastern portions of Early County. The southern part of this is moving out of our coverage area. Mayhall is not included officially within our coverage area. It is outside of Early County. So Mayhall, Colquitt, places like that, you may see some of those damaging winds, but outside of our kind of viewing area. We'll take this farther off toward the south and east. Now we're starting to get down into Seminole County, Donaldsonville, Steam Mill. Heavy rain, gusty winds, lots of thunder and lightning. Nothing really sticking out to me that's necessarily all that severe, nothing that's really jumping out at me for anything that is all that severe. Then continuing down into Jackson County, Marietta, your severe weather threat is done. May still see some gusty winds, lots of rain, lots of thunder, lots of lightning in Sneads over in the far eastern portions of Jackson County. If I have not mentioned your area anywhere in that, your severe weather threat is done because everybody else is back on the western side of this. Marietta, you're done. Chipley, you're done. Graceville, you're done. Dothan, Cottonwood, Rehoboth, Taylor, you're done. You're all done with the severe weather, and things will start to dry out as we head throughout the rest of the day today. Ryan, what's up?
Hey, Zach, I actually got a little bit of a live look on how Southeast Health Skycam some roof damage to a building close by. If we could take that
is there any
for
way
a
we can
second.
pull that up, guys in the back?
Because I know we were just getting that through the newsroom here. It looks pretty interesting.
Yeah, they're working on that. Let's see what we. Yeah, Ryan, is that as far as you can zoom in on that?
Yeah, actually, I can zoom in a little bit more. Let's get a little bit closer.
Yeah. So again, you've at the very least had straight line winds blow. I don't know why I'm trying to point. I'm not actually up on the green screen right now, but yeah, there we go. So you've at the very least had straight line winds. It's likely that this could have been a tornado has actually blown through and peeled back part of the roof on this building. I'm not sure exactly what building that is. That is over there by Southeast Health. Ryan, good catch there in finding that. You can see some people already starting to work on. That is the Epic building at Southeast Health. That's what I'm being told in my ear. So some roof damage there. Ryan, is that as far as you can zoom in? I wonder if we have any, I wonder if those windows, I don't know if some of those are blown out. You definitely have damage to the roof. I'm not seeing, it's kind of hard to see whether or not we
I'm seeing reflections out of the window, so
Yeah.
maybe the glass is still intact. It looks like the pictures I've seen come through the website, it looks like it's mostly this roof and possibly on the backside. Of course, we can't see the backside.
Definitely the backside of that roof, kind of where we can't see it. Some of that has been peeled away as well, but that's only a small sampling of some of the damage that we have seen around the south side of Dothan. Early this afternoon, we had the live view earlier from reporter Camille Coney out at Dothan Preparatory Academy, where there was damage done as well. There are also another tornado, a brief tornado, that touched down over in Dale County, close to Midland City. Ryan, have we seen anything out of Midland City?
I haven't seen.
It's still pretty early, so I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't have anything yet. Have you seen anything?
I have not seen anything out of Midland City. Again, the storm reports I went through really kind of went through Sylvan. That was like the main areas we were watching out for. But I'll continue looking to see if we can find anything out of Midland City. But of course, the sky cams, this just confirms. We saw how powerful those winds were when we saw that tornado warning first issued over downtown Dothan. It definitely packed a punch, as you can see right there, and quick response by people taking a look at the roof damage there. And like Zach has been saying, and like we have been saying again, this could be straight line wind damage or indications of tornadic damage. Again, we're not 100% sure. The National Weather Service will eventually come through and kind of give us those surveys and reports, but just an indication that it was able to sweep through, especially the east side, or the south and east side of Dothan as it's made its way through. But yeah, Zach, I'll be sure to keep an eye on those storm reports that are still coming in as we're watching the last bit of this line make its way through our Georgia counties.
Yeah, ultimately, we'll have storm surveyors from the National Weather Service in Tallahassee. They will be the ones that come up to Dothan and then come up around Midland City and other places around those regions. They will come through, they will survey that damage. They have various things that they look out for, various damage indicators that can not only determine what caused the damage. If it was a tornado, they can also use those damage indicators to figure out how strong those tornadoes are. Any tornado that's strong enough, or any straight line wind for that matter, that's able to do damage, you definitely had a decently strong either straight line winds or tornado move through. We should know likely within the next couple of days what that looks like. Looks like that's another view looking back out toward Dothan Preparatory Academy, where you can see some of that roof damage as well. You can see some of the tin from the roof, either of Dothan Preparatory Academy or some of the buildings on the other side of the highway. You can see where some of that has been blown out there across the yard, and you can see some of that roof damage there to Dothan Preparatory Academy. But again, this is just a sampling of some of the damage that we've seen on the south side of Dothan. Early this afternoon, we will have to wait for confirmation of if it was a tornado or straight line winds. I'm not going to get too caught up in that because regardless of tornado, regardless of straight line winds, damage has been done to the southern portions of Dothan. And again, we'll start to figure things out over the next couple of days as to A, whether or not it was a tornado that caused it, and B, if it was a tornado, we'll start to figure out how strong that tornado was. Back over to Doppler radar. The line of storms now moving through the east central portions of Early County. Blakely, your severe weather threat's over. Rain will continue to fall for about the next 20 to 30 minutes or so, but the threat for strong gusty winds, any sort of spin-up tornado, that has now moved off to your east and will continue to move off towards your east as we head through the rest of the afternoon. The leading edge of that line of storms now moving into the northern portions of Seminole County, Donaldsonville. You're seeing some of that heavier rain and some gusty winds coming down, then continuing farther along into Jackson County. We're now talking about the far eastern portions of Jackson County at this moment. Mariana, you're done with your severe weather threat. Some rain, just like what we're seeing in Blakely. Some rain continues for about the next 20 to 30 minutes. All the heaviest rain, all the gusty winds, that has now pushed off towards your east, and now the leading edge of that line has basically moved its way out of Jackson County. So about the only places that we're still watching for any sort of potential for any strong winds would be over here in the east central portions of Early County, Damascus, Georgia Highway 45 that runs up through Damascus and up into Arlington. If we're going to see any wind damage, it's likely going to happen somewhere in that area. There's not really a whole lot of indications that we'll get any wind damage out of that. There's definitely some gusty winds, no doubt about it. We have some gusty winds moving through, but if we're going to see wind damage, it will likely be somewhere around in that area over in Early County. We're starting to get a little bit too far away from the radar to really kind of accept these as ground truth. So winds just off the surface, 40, 45, 50 miles per hour. Some of that may be able to get down to the surface, 35, 40 mile per hour winds in some of those strongest storms. But again, this is gusty winds. I don't think this is damaging winds, and this continues to move off toward the east fairly quickly. And then just kind of looking elsewhere around the regions, we just really kind of babysit these storms as they continue to move out of the region.
Yeah, Zach, actually, real quick, not to interrupt, but there was another storm report that came through, a call made to Geneva County 911 saying that there have been reported trees and power lines down as well near Slocum and Malvern. So the areas of damage likely due to, since it was Geneva, likely straight line wind gusts is spreading throughout our area. But I just wanted to update real quick on that.
Ryan, you're really good at this. We always turn to you for this. Look up power outages for me right quick. Let's get a report on power outages as we start to wind this down. Obviously not surprising that we're seeing some tree damage, some power line damage elsewhere. That's a very, very common sight, even in the most low-end rounds of severe weather where you just deal with a squall line that moves its way across the region. You can get winds of up to 40, 50 miles per hour. It doesn't really do a lot of structural damage, but especially out along those county roads, those kind of deeply forested areas. Not uncommon to see some of those trees come down. Some of those trees come down on power lines and cause power outages. Not really a big deal. Obviously, if it impacts your power, it's a big deal, but not an uncommon sight when we get these lines of storms that move through the region to get some tree damage, especially out along some of those county roads. The only warnings that we have in effect anywhere across the region are kind of these large, we call them blanket severe thunderstorm warnings. One covering a pretty big chunk of southwest Georgia, the other one covering the other portion of southwest Georgia, and then down into the central portions of the Florida Panhandle. Those are the only two warnings that we have in effect anywhere across the region. I'll go ahead and stop this. I'll pause this right quick. You have your leading edge of storms now starting to move out of the far eastern portions of basically all of our counties across the region. So if you live anywhere right along this line of storms, or back toward the west, that's about 95% of our coverage area. That includes Dothan, Marianna, Eufaula, Troy, Enterprise, Andalusia, Slocum, Geneva, Definiak Springs, Crestview, all of these locations. Your severe weather threat is done for the day. If you get any other alerts that we have tornado warnings or anything else like that that's farther back off toward the west, it's old. It's already happened. No warnings in effect. There's not very much in the way of rain coming down. Really anywhere elsewhere across the region outside of our far eastern counties out of the area, and that's like far eastern Early County, northern Seminole County, far eastern portions of Jackson County. If you don't live in any of those three areas, your severe weather threat is done for the day. I'm continuing to keep an eye on Facebook comments and getting obviously several power outage reports, which is definitely not surprising, especially when you saw some of those winds that blew through the southern portions of Dothan earlier this afternoon. We're continuing to see those gusty winds right along the leading edge of this line. Good news is we're starting to kind of come to the end of this as far as our severe weather threat goes across the Wiregrass, the leading edge of that line of storms now moving into the far eastern portions of Early County. That is the Early County line right here just to the east of Damascus. We're now starting to get that leading edge of the storms over to the far eastern portions of Early County. Then we take you into Seminole County. For all intents and purposes, kind of the leading edge of the line has already moved out of Seminole County. We'll continue to watch this around Steam Mill in Donaldsonville. It's kind of on the back side now of that leading edge of the line of storms, but still some heavy rain, some gusty winds, some thunder and lightning for Steam Mill and Donaldsonville. Chattahoochee, you're likely seeing some more in the way of those gusty winds. That's kind of where Jackson County, kind of where the southern portions of Seminole County is. Some gusty winds, some rain, some thunder, some lightning for places like Chattahoochee. Overall, your severe weather threat coming to an end. In fact, your severe weather threat has just about entirely came to an end all across Jackson County, but we'll continue to watch this until we can get the very leading edge of this line out of here. And we're basically just watching probably the last few minutes of this line of storms as it continues to move out of our area. You can see the leading edge of that line now moving out of Jackson County. Some rain continuing to come down over in Seminole County. Guys, let me know in my ear whenever Ryan's ready to go with the power outage stuff. We'll give Ryan an update. We'll let Ryan give you an update on that. Storm starting to move out of Eastern County. I'll continue to keep an eye on radar. Ryan, I already see you out of the corner of my eye. You've got the power outage kind of update going. Take it away for us.
Yeah, Zach, of course. And I was taking a look, especially at Houston County, after we saw that big area of rotation make its way through. Again, that was a tornado warned, or excuse me, a warned storm for tornadoes. Again, we were trying to find if it was a radar confirmed tornado, and of course we're tracking areas of damage that have been reported, especially Dothan Prep Academy from this afternoon. But power outages have been making a big play, and we've seen that through the storm reports that have come out through parts of Dale County, Geneva County, where multiple power lines have been brought down along with some trees. So I wanted to start off with the Wiregrass Electric Co-op map right here. It's a very great resource here, and through these numbers we can see that many customers are without power. And taking that full, you can see for more areas of Geneva County here, south of Slocum, a little bit more widespread. And this also goes along with some of the calls that we saw going into the Geneva County 911 center of trees and power lines being brought down, likely due to straight line wind gusts. I believe when we were watching out for, we didn't really see anything that brought us to our attention in terms of rotation, but likely some areas that were able to be brought down by or where power was knocked out by straight line wind gusts. But then you get closer to Dothan. Again, this is more of Dothan Utilities territory, especially along within the circle, but areas just a little bit east of Ashford where we have some power outages along highway, I believe that's Highway 84 there, leading into Ashford and just outside of the circle. So some of those areas where we continue to see that line of showers and thunderstorms continuing to stay unified. That helps push those winds, and it can easily knock down trees, especially if they are weak, especially with how dry we have still been. So some trees can easily be knocked over, but I think the biggest thing that has really stayed in our attention is the widespread predicted outages of, according to Dothan Utilities here. And again, predicted because of the orange colors. All these numbers are predicted values from Dothan Utilities of likely power outages and how many customers it's affecting. The red, which is just along Ross Clark Circle here, this is a verified power outage for a customer there. So that's how we are kind of how we're distinguishing these power outages as of right now. But the biggest thing to notice out of this map is how that prediction is really centered over the southeastern side of the circle, where we really saw that area of rotation really become more organized as it made its way through, especially as it continued to make its way parts of likely Dothan Prep Academy and continued to make its way farther to the east. So these are the predicted amount of power outages that are affecting more of the Dothan utility side. And I will say I've been actually watching out for poweroutage.us. That's another great tool that we use. And looking at Houston County, they track about 3,000 customers, and for the amounts that were reported out for Dothan Utilities, according to poweroutage.us, it was just below that mark. So many of the customers that they track are actually without power right now, according to that tool. So likely seeing widespread power outages. And Zach, I know we saw through the Skycam earlier, the power of those wind gusts coming through for Southeast Health Cam. And so definitely not surprising to see the amount of power outages that could be in play this afternoon.
Yeah, we saw it there on Southeast Health, on the Southeast Health camera as it was happening. That's why we say, at the very least, we saw strong straight line winds that produced damage. There's a decent chance, I feel decently certain, but there's still some things that will have to be surveyed before we can absolutely say for sure. We at the very least had straight line winds. I would not be completely surprised if we did not have a very brief tornado move through the southern portions of the circle in Dothan, right inside the circle in Dothan. That is the view from one of the buildings at Southeast Health. You can see some of those, some of the roof peeled back. Guys, we were able to pull up that camera from Dothan Preparatory Academy that we showed earlier. We were able to pull up that quickly. That's a view of some of the damage out by Southeast Health. We're working at getting that view from Dothan Preparatory Academy pulled up again, where we had some of the metal, some of the tin from the roofs of either the school or some of those nearby buildings that got peeled back, similar to this, and kind of strewn around the grassy areas around Dothan Preparatory Academy. A couple more pieces of good news. While Ryan was breaking down, there's the view from Dothan Preparatory Academy. I think this is the view that we had earlier. You can see a portion of the roof there of the school that's kind of dangling off the side of the building. Obviously, plenty of first responders on scene as well. And then farther back off toward the left side of your screen, you can see lots of small pieces of debris kind of strewn around that grassy area. You can see a few more of those kind of down toward the bottom, let's see, that would be the bottom left corner of your screen. So these are some areas where we have seen damage happen here in Dothan. Early this afternoon, they're kind of zooming in on that area where, again, a portion of the roof got pulled back or blown from somewhere. It looks to be on top of the roof. Looks like there's some people standing on top of the roof, kind of getting the lay of the land into what we saw damage-wise in the southern half of Houston County. Guys, thank you so much for those views there. Shout out to Ryan and everybody else that was able to pick up on that view from Southeast Health. I am largely unable to see the sky cams from where I'm standing here, so shout out to everybody that was that played a part in spotting those strong as they blew through the southern portions of Houston County. Guys, I think the IFB battery in my IFB may have gone out. Good news is that that's not really an issue for us. While Ryan, yeah, I got you. While Ryan was looking at power outages, Yes, some of the leading edge of the line, at least as far as reflectivity goes, is still back here out over portions of Seminole County. But if we take you to where radar is showing the winds, your leading edge of the gusty winds, it's now out of Jackson County. It's now out of Seminole County. And I'll pull this up right quick. And it's out of Early County as well. So I think we're good to go ahead and wind this down. I'll show you a couple things just right quick, kind of looking ahead toward the rest of this week. Our severe weather threat's done across the southeast, or across the Wiregrass, sorry. Still continues for portions of the southeast out across parts of Georgia, the Carolinas, and Florida throughout the rest of the afternoon and into the evening. But as far as we're concerned here in the Wiregrass, our severe weather threat is over. That line of storms is now completely moved out of our region. They've even trimmed, for the most part, those severe thunderstorm warnings out of Jackson County. Some of it still just barely clips portions of Early County, but farther back off toward the west, things are done. You may see a little bit of rain continue throughout the rest of the afternoon. Outside of that, that's it for our severe weather threat. We have finally seen things begin to wind down. Right quick, a couple things that I wanted to show. I got to kind of get my bearings straight right here again. Kind of scrolling through some of my graphics.
And actually,
Ryan,
Zach, while you're doing that too, I'll give you some time. But before we did go, I just wanted to give a little bit of an update in case there are parents that have been trying to gain a sense of the situation at Dothan Prep Academy. And we've seen updates come through Dothan Police Department's Facebook. They've been updating it very consistently regarding their responses to the school. And so we thank you for doing that as well. It's a big help for everyone within the community. Fortunately, I believe it was Dothan Fire that was able to respond very quickly to address those injuries that were reported from the students, but they came back, or the Dothan Police Department came back and said that the students are safe at Dothan Prep and that they are making plans for parents that are planning to pick up their children from the academy right now. And so I'll go ahead and read real quick. This is an update from about 10 minutes ago from the Dothan Police Department for parents that are planning to pick up their kids. The best route to get your children is from the south side of, I believe, South Oat Street, left on Garland to Doug 2. And if you come from the north, expect delays as traffic is congested and emergency workers are still there. Of course, we just took that live shot of people on the roof. They're checking out the situation as well. And they just asked that everyone be patient because, again, it's very congested around those areas as well. And we're actually getting word now that we're about to actually take an EMA press conference live, I'm sure, regarding some of the situations that we are going on. So, yeah, Kenneth, I'll go ahead and let you take that if we're ready for that.
All right. Awesome. Well, thank you all for coming together for us and helping us get the message out to our community. As you can see behind me, we did have some damage, apparently a tornado damage to Dothan Preparatory Academy. The fire department response was very quick, as we have SROs that are here at the school, and the school administration let us know quickly that we had some damage and possible injuries. We did have 5 total injuries. 2 were transported non-emergency minor injuries to a local hospital. The other 3 were very minor and have not required any transport. They're still here. School officials very quickly let us know that they've accounted for everyone. There's no one missing. There's no one trapped. There's no additional injuries. So moving from the school, we do have a damaged path out Cottonwood Road towards 3rd Avenue. We have multiple units from fire, police, state troopers, Houston County sheriffs that are helping to search that area and clear homes. So from an injury and response standpoint, amazing that we're so blessed that we didn't have more injuries than we did, and that our response was so quick and very narrow in damaged areas. At this point, I want to turn it over to the school system to give us a quick update on what they're doing, and then Lieutenant Owens from the police department will talk about where the reunification center is going to be to come get your students if you need to, and the best routes to get there and where we have a bunch of road closings.
Yeah. So right now what we're working on is we are evacuating all of the students from DPA over to Doug 2 Center. We're going to have all of the parents come and check out their kids at that point. We are not going to run buses for DPA. We will be running buses as normal at all of our other campuses, but because of the congestion and the damage here, we're going to try to keep the buses out of this area. So If you do have a student at DPA, they will be being checked out over at Doug 2. So that's what we have right now at this time. Obviously, we do have some damage here. So the rest of the week's kind of up in the air at this point. Obviously, we'll have to go in and check, assess the damage, and check the building out. So.
All right. Awesome.
All right. So our police response here is obviously we had an SRO that was here at the school at the time the event happened. Very, very quick to get students sheltered per Dothan City Schools policy. The teachers and the SROs always work together when we have this type of incident, make sure that the students are as safe as possible. And I think that contributes to why there were only 5 injuries when you have an incident like this. So big thank you out to Dothan City Schools, their employees, and Dothan Fire Department for their response time. So right now, all the students are being evacuated to Doug 2, like we said. The best way to get there is from the south. Okay, if you come from the north or on North Oak Street, you're going to hit some congestion because we have emergency crews in the area that are cleaning up debris, putting power lines back up, trying to get city infrastructure back online. So if you come from the south and you make a left onto Garland, that should take you right by Doug 2. That's the best route to go at the time, and Doug 2 Recreation Center is the reunification point. At some point today, like we said, the damage path is along Selma Street down here. There are going to be multiple road closures at the time. If you see standing water, don't enter it. If you see barricades, don't go around them. They're there for a reason. They are there for everybody's safety. So we ask for everybody's patience and cooperation to help us keep everybody safe so that we can rebuild this part of the wiregrass that was hit by this tornado. Other than that, we want to thank all the multiple agencies that came out here to help us out. Our partnership with Dothan City Schools, Dothan Fire Department, among the best, Aaliyah State Troopers, Houston County Sheriff's Office, and I'm sure I'm missing some, but we want to thank all the agencies that came out here to help and really bond together as the wiregrass should.
Any questions that we might be able to address quickly? And we'll do another update, I'm sure, shortly as we get more information and we learn a little bit more about the damage path. We've not found any significant injuries so far down that way, so we're still clearing houses and making sure that everything's good there as they're starting to restore power.
Yeah, I was just going to reiterate, obviously we have the robocall system, the calling system, so the best way for you guys to look out on what's going on for the remainder of the week will either be through those calls or on our social media.
Okay, your question was?
Can we touch on the fact that the school was not closed for today?
It was a normal school day and operating as normal. And all of their emergency preparedness procedures worked exactly as designed. So that's why we have no injuries. It's because they were here in a safe building, and the staff, the SROs, the teachers, and administrators here at DPA did exactly what's called for in this type of situation. Yes, sir.
And can you again recap the injuries? Don't tell us who they were and just the extent of their.
Well, we can't identify anyone. There were 5 minor injuries. Only 2 required transport to a local hospital. Again, and they were minor as well. Maybe 1 moderate. But them being juveniles, obviously, we're not going to identify who they were. They were quickly transported from the scene by Pilcher's Ambulance Service and the Dothan Fire Department medics.
So they were students?
Yes. Yes. All 5 of the minor injuries were students. Thank you. That's a good point. And I just reiterate what the Lieutenant said is, don't go around barricades. Any downed lines, treat it as a downed active power line until it's confirmed by the electric department. If you have a generator and you're without power in your home, we have a couple of thousand people without power currently. I don't have the exact number, but if you have a generator, make sure it's away from your home, not in your garage, and in an open space where it can be ventilated. We don't want to add to the problems as we move forward.
For any road closures, make sure you follow us and Dothan Fire Department for any updates on road closures. We're going to keep those updated as best we can when we become aware of them, when Dothan Utilities starts to shut down those intersections.
Awesome. Anything else? All right, we'll provide updates as we can. We'll try to send out a message.
All right, so that was an update from Dothan EMA out at Dothan Preparatory Academy, where we saw some of that damage happen in the southern portions of Dothan, either from damaging straight line winds or a tornado. We'll start to figure out those details as we head through the next couple of days. And the National Weather Service in Tallahassee is able to come up and survey that damage. 5 injuries to students at Dothan Preparatory Academy, 2 of which required transport to the hospital. It seems like those injuries were minor, so Definitely some good news there that we at least only saw minor injuries. Obviously, the best thing is if we didn't see any injuries at all. Right quick as we start to wind down, we're dry for the rest of this week. Lots of sunshine. We'll see a few scattered clouds at times. We'll start to see some of the warmest air we have seen thus far this year settle into the region through the second half of the work week. Lower to middle 80s on Tuesday, middle to upper 80s as we head into Wednesday. Another rain chance late Sunday and into early Monday, but at least for right now, going to have some much drier and some much nicer weather settle into the region. So these areas that have seen some of that damage can kind of start to rebuild, recover, and clean up some of the damage that is done. That'll about do it for us here. Rain continues to move out of our east and out of here. The severe weather threat is done across the Wiregrass. We're going to toss things back over to live coverage. Thank you so much for those of you that tuned in. I'm meteorologist Zach Webster, joined by meteorologist Ryan Duggar.
You've been watching a News 4 First Alert Severe Weather Update. For more weather updates, download the free News 4 First Alert app.